Okay, and call the council meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the August 26, 2024, August 12th, gotta move my paper, August 12th, 2024 minutes.
Second. We have a motion seconded by Ken. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, this is the second meeting of the month. We'll begin with Board of Works and Safety.
Board of Works did meet today. Couple of things to share. The fire department did mention that the old fire engine is off to auction, so hopefully we can get that taken care of. Police department shared several things. Chief Stout shared that Trace Huffman has graduated, finished his school, and he's on duty now. Mr. Huff with the K-9 has been assigned to second shift, so now we have K-9 on first shift and second shift. He also stated that there's been some questions about the crosswalk out at the school, that the crossing guard is struggling stopping traffic on more than one road. I'm not sure how the best way to say that. She's stopping the traffic on Park Road, but then people are coming down 19. She may have to go to the middle of the intersection and stop all four ways. But there hasn't been any incidents or any near misses or anything. He just shared that was a concern. The only other thing he shared that I wanted to share with the council is that coming out of the strategic meeting that we had with the police department, that his officers have devised a suggestion on how to divide the city up into quadrants and patrol so that they could patrol in quadrants so that they cover every part of the city in a certain time frame. He was going to share more details about that, and watch out, there will be another
Operation
pullover in the near future. So be careful, Nate.
Thank you. Golf Advisory Committee.
Golf Advisory Committee did meet. Also, the weather's been great for the golf. So revenue's in pretty good shape, maybe a little better than we were last year. There were some other issues that were talked about, and we've handed those off to the mayor.
Thank you. Solid Waste District.
We did meet today, went over quite a few things. They have got all the yard free waste, stuff like that. They finally did get it all grounded down. They hauled out 19 56-foot semi-loads of that out of there. So that is cleaned up to where that ground is back open. The fence line's got some weeds and stuff, but we're in the process and we're working on that to get that taken care of out there. Besides that's about it.
Very good. Street Eye and Sidewalk did not meet this past month. Just to mention, though, an item for that committee's agenda will be to discuss some of the ADA challenges we have with some of our trash and recycling totes here in town. So just as an information point for those committee members. Planning Commission.
We met on the 15th of August. Discussion was had during the meeting about the solar energy ordinances. We have sent them to the standing committee to be thoroughly gone through, then brought back to the Plan Commission with any change recommendations. That's it.
Very
Be
good.
quiet.
Utility Board.
Utility Board met last Monday in this room. Jim reported that there was just under 1,600 feet of pipe that have been installed from on 28. The water tower foundation is slated to begin after Labor Day. And other than that, everything is running pretty smooth.
Very good. Last on our list is Youth Council that actually restarts here momentarily. There's a call out to students at the moment with a retreat plan, I believe, for early September. So the Youth Council is actually working with both Tipton and Tri-Central School Corporations to see if we can recruit some students to participate in that. At this time, for the annexation, voluntary annexation of Buttonwood Phase 2, we're to open up a public hearing. To do that, I'll need a motion.
Motion to open the public hearing on Buttonwood 2 super voluntary.
Second.
Motion by Nate, seconded by Tim. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Public hearing is now open. Seeing there are no comments.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Ken, seconded by Tim. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, signify by stating aye.
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 Those opposed? Public hearing is now closed. There are no items under new or old business. Under mayor's report, a few things. The public safety building feasibility report and initial funding scenarios from Reedy Financial Group. I just emailed those to you before this meeting. We got those. What we were waiting for is Reedy's analysis on the 4 different scenarios offered in that feasibility study, what a bond payment would look like under each of those scenarios. So you now have those in your inboxes, and we'll be having some continued discussion about that. Given the size of a potential project and of that nature, the next step for the public safety building will be to review the information on the current building assessment that was conducted under that feasibility study, which helped us to identify the current conditions of the building rated A through F. Obviously, A is good condition, F is not. With that, trying to prioritize what improvements can we make to the existing facility and then to utilize the general obligation bond dollars that still exist. Some of those funds, nearly half of those funds have been spent already on other projects. And so as I started here in January, working with Tammy, would try to protect the remainder of those funds to help improve, because there are some significant health and safety concerns with the existing building. So that'll be the next exercise with respect to the public safety building. The final walkthrough of the Community Crossings 2023 project is getting scheduled momentarily. Those projects have now been completed as Midwest has deemed them. So we're working with city engineer and myself to schedule that final walkthrough. We are having pre-construction meetings for the 2024 CCMG, the Community Crossing Matching Grant projects. I think those are scheduled for this week, so we should understand timelines and expectations as we move forward with those. Trail extension, not to take too much thunder, but you should be seeing some activity happening along the creek in and around the park. And that is some silt fence has been installed, and we should actually see some dozer work taking place this week, I believe. And then the last one, why I suspect why we have some members in the audience today, related to baseball and its current condition and next steps. So I attended a meeting that was hosted or called by county officials to discuss a potential larger project for a sports facility. Based on my interpretation of that meeting, it didn't sound like the urgency of that project was quite as urgent as maybe the cities would be. So not trying to dismiss the idea, but just being acknowledging the situation that the city has in regards to baseball. We did, of course, start the year with a project that didn't have any funding identified for it. And for the city of Tipton, funding a project with at least $1.5 million project budget is a significant endeavor on behalf of the city. So as we look to hear from some of the members here today, identifying next steps for the next year. Of course, as I've connected with or reconnected with some of our construction folks, we've likely missed the window or have missed the window of opportunity to get fields back in Tipton in 2025. but working on solutions as we move forward quickly to ensure that we do and will get baseball back in Tipton here in the short term. And that would conclude my mayor's report, and we'll move on to resolutions and ordinances. First up is Resolution 2024-13. It's a resolution adopting the fiscal plan for Buttonwood 2 super voluntary annexation. This should look familiar to some members of the council, and given this is the annexation of a vacant property, it's a quite easy read. The impacts to assessed value are very minimal. I will say, just as a disclaimer, Reedy did intend to be here this evening to help walk through this, but they had a illness in the family, so they had to cancel last minute. But our impacts, of course, in assessed value are just under $50,000, and the net assessed value impact, and again, that's because this is currently farm ground at the moment. This annexation is merely for strategic purposes, assuming that Buttonwood Phase 2 will at some point materialize. And then the impacts to some of the other, Cicero Township is the only area taxing unit that gets impacted, and their total impact is $57 as we forecast into the future.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2024-13.
Second.
We have a motion seconded by Nathan. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2024-13, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The next is Resolution 2024-14. It's a resolution to transfer funds within the general fund under the mayor's budget. This is a transfer of $250 from phone to training and instruction. My office is taking advantage of more training than we had in the original budget. So that is the cause of this transfer.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2024-14.
Second. Heard.
We have a motion by Nate, seconded by Rich. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, ordinance 2024-08. It's amendment to adjust the speed limits of recently annexed property in and around the city of Tipton. This is for second and final reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-08.
Second.
Motion by Rick and seconded by Ken. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2024-08, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And the last one up for tonight is ordinance 2024-09. It's an ordinance that amends the salary ordinance. Again, this is semantics. It's updating the name from EMS manager to EMS captain as we move forward.
A motion to approve ordinance 2024-09.
Second.
Motion by Nate, seconded by Rick. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2024-09, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up on the agenda are claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we, excuse me, I move that we approve for payment claims 177270 through 177360 in the amount of $918,437.70.
Second.
Motion by Rick, seconded by Ken.
Ken.
All those in favor of approving claims, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're now at petitions, comments, and memorials.
While we're waiting on someone to come to the podium, 2 questions about the speed limits. Again, we need to make sure that the signs, now that the ordinance has been passed, that the signs are changed. I intended to ask Chief Stout this morning if he was aware of the changes. We need to make sure the police department is aware of the changes, and we just hope that they'll enforce it.
I can say that the police department was part of the review process when Matt Quigley presented that, so they are aware, yes. And then I'll verify and touch base on the installation of signs.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Campbell, here tonight on behalf of the Tipton Baseball Board, president of that board. Looking for some answers and some direction for our board and for the whole baseball community in general. Mayor formed a project committee back shortly after taking office back in January. The baseball board involved with brought us onto that project committee to stay informed and to help be part of that review process, and kind of help things track, because our board wasn't involved in the decisions or direction that they had gone with the demolition. So things started off really well there. Being involved, being able to answer questions, taking the input. So we had 3 or 4 meetings. And then our last meeting was on May 15th, where we met out at the ball fields with contractors we were meeting with to move forward with that proposal. So I checked back on the status after that meeting on June 26th and said there was no point to meet until you had firm bids and contractor in place, and we expect to just receive bids on July 17th. To be able to play with construction starting in August. So I emailed on June 26th or July 30th, had no communication back until Julie, our treasurer, emailed again on the August 13th, asked for that update. And at that point, we were informed that you no longer had city council's support for this project after the discussions of a unified facility were brought up. So, and then hearing now tonight that we've missed that deadline, and we're definitely not even starting construction this fall. Just trying to get some answers, so that way whenever we get questions, and we know how to move forward, and also trying to understand where the lack of support comes from, or what you need from our board.
First of all, the city council hasn't been informed. So I don't know where the information came that we did not support the project anymore, but that is.
I've had individual conversations with the council though on the baseball project.
That we didn't support it. I'll disagree with you humbly, but we can ask each council member now if they said they didn't support the project.
I don't think it's a question of whether we support
Supported it.
baseball fields or not. We obviously, if I could just take a step back, this project was initiated under the previous administration and council. There's only 3 here that were on this council. It appeared former Mayor Dozel had some funds. Turns out we did have the funds. It would have put some strain in some coffers if the council would have had to have approved under Keegan's direction, if he wanted to go that direction, moving money from ARPA and general obligation bonds, which we desperately need for the public safety building, and some other funds. We would have had to shift those, which would have caused a lot of issues. So the question really wasn't, do we support it? Is it the most appropriate place where it was before? And Keegan had shared with the council that there are some serious concerns. And I kind of agreed with a lot. Actually, I do agree with a lot of them. The fact that you can see shards of glass when you drive by in the summer is a bit of a problem. The fact that it may not actually accommodate our future needs is a bit of a problem. So the question was really, do we support maybe something bigger? The council only has so much money, but fiscally, in fact, at one of the board of works meetings, I've gone from, I don't want a park board to, we're going to have a park board, folks. If we want to afford nice things like a baseball diamond, we're going to have that.
Yes.
And now it comes down to, honestly, is the county willing to also participate? Because this isn't a city-only baseball facility. The county uses this, county residents and children use this as well. So for the first time in a long time, I'd like to see city, county, and a school, if that's appropriate, come together and make this happen. I don't care where it's at. I don't care what the color of the dang brick dust is. I support it. I'll find every way I can financially as a city council member to support it. We can't lead projects. It's really not what we do. But fiscally, at budget time especially, I will find every way to support the mayor, the county, whatever we can do to get this done. Because if we're sitting here in 2026 with no baseball diamonds, soccer fields that are in the middle of nowhere without appropriate facilities for children, and a softball facility that is being ran by people of an aging fraternal organization. It's a great organization, but they're struggling too. We failed. So that's where I'd like to see us come together. And I think all council members would agree, whatever we can do fiscally, we absolutely will do. The mayor has my support. I'll find a way. If we have to do a park board against really what I wanted to do, I will. As long as we can find a way to get this thing done.
Yeah, and so, and we discussed that, with that contractor, some of those concerns, as far as debris being out there. We looked at doing some tiling projects and things, and, it's definitely not ideal. It's not as big as what we'd like. There's those obvious concerns and constraints there.
So can I ask, is the consensus that we're moving back to trying to build fields where we did exist before?
I think
There was talk, multiple other locations. I was of the understanding that was still the discussion point. So are we back to where?
So in our last project committee, we talked about the idea of a bigger complex,
yeah.
someplace different, and with Keene said, yeah, it would be great, but that's a long shot pipe dream. 5 to 7 years probably before that could realistically be actionable.
That's
So we don't have baseball for it's hard enough playing Atlanta last year, and we lost probably do you know what percent? We were down 100 overall. So lost 100 kids last year. I wasn't thinking it was quite that many, but yeah, we were down on across all the leagues from little sluggers all the way to Babe Ruth. So we had a significant hit there. We've always had the only, I guess, the strongest in-house league that I've ever known of. I mean, there's not a single kid up until last year that I knew of that played travel ball. That solely that didn't play on the rec league. I'm sure there's been some overtime, but everybody's played in the rec league, and that's why that's a big reason why our youth programs have been as successful and as good as they have been over the years. Because we've always had a great board, great facilities, but okay facilities that we made work. So if we continue, whether it be Atlanta or right now we have no place to play.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, our previous board president got tired of the back and forth, and he stepped down at our last meeting. So I was vice president, so I'm the interim president of our board. But it's pretty bad when the baseball board president throws his hands up and gives in. So to not think that families and kids are going to do the same thing is, it's pretty evident there. So
And
I'm trying to figure out what you need from us, understanding what the realistic timelines and directions are, so that we can I get questions every day about it.
What's the bare minimum that you need to be able to play here?
That's what I discussed with Keegan, what we had talked about before too.
So at our meeting in May, because we talked about the concept of exploring the idea of a bigger facility that Mayor had been working on, having some conversations, nothing formal, but had been kicking some ideas around anyway. So at leaving that meeting, the contractor that we met with was supposed to kind of give us an ABC option. All right, what's kind of the bare bones? No concession stands, no bathrooms, chain link dugouts. Have nice fields that are playable and usable and safe, but the concession stand press box is one big ticket item. So it's like, all right, let's see what that kind of bare bones cost structure is. Maybe do the block dugouts with no concession stand, and then give us a bid on the project as proposed and as originally designed. So that's what I was expecting on July 17th, and not sure whatever happened to that. Like I said, emailed there at the end of July and again on August, and that's when I was told that to have the support of the project and more in support of this unified facility, which again I think everybody would be in support of something like that, but we all realize that that's a much larger project, and to get, particularly if you're talking school and county and city all to be on the same page, plus the boards, those different options. I support the idea of it, but we need a place to play ball.
Yeah.
And if we can work on something to get something in motion for a few years down the road, great. But I also don't want to go out and try to help raise money to build a cheap facility. I want to make sure that we're asking for support and for donations and sponsorships, that we've got a ball field that people are proud to support, proud to come and play on. And so
If we did a complex, do you have an idea how long down the road we are to get something like that?
5, 7.
I mean, all of it's going to be based on funding, as we've acknowledged. The city's fiscal resources we're projecting our budget increase, our growth for our budget for 2025 is $311,000. We've got to fit salary increases in that. We've got any projects that we hope to accomplish next year all have to fit in within $311,000. And I'll tell you that with a 5% increase, that's unfundable just in salary increases. So the realities we have is we've achieved so little revenue growth because of successful projects in the past that we're now facing realities where our capital and project needs or even day-to-day services are outpacing our revenue growth. So it's hard to answer that question without knowing what the funds are.
We will look for every
And-
dollar we can. First of all, I want to thank you for stepping up. You probably thought long and hard before you did that. I'm just guessing. But thank you for taking the lead. I can guarantee you this council wants to see a baseball diamond as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
But
And I think the
funding
mayor
funding
feels that way
is
too.
obviously going to be an issue.
And I'm glad to hear you say you support Park Advisory Board. So,
It,
this is my first city council meeting I've ever attended. So I'm coming in pretty ignorant to the whole process here. But, that's been one of the big questions I haven't understood. Julie's been on the board for how long? Julie's our treasurer, has been on the baseball board for a long time and has helped start this process 3 times. This may be the 4th.
Yeah, we started originally in 2019 there.
So, she's done a lot of research on grants and things, and, one of the big pieces is obviously the Park Advisory Board. And so that was my other question, was understanding what the downside was
So,
to
yeah,
what the.
There's a lot so you understand my track of thinking too, is the city's Park Advisory Board cannot levy a tax. They're just simply an advisory board. The council still, through the general fund, sets money aside for parks and recreation. That's separate from what the county may do. And the city has maintained the city park with general funds from city residents only. So my first concern was a future park board will levy a tax. It's inevitable. That's government. When they do that, it will take a little bit from the school, the township, the county, even our own general fund. At the same time, county residents get to enjoy the city park, the pool, the golf course, all those amenities, but they don't really pay for them. So my first thought was, well, maybe we can, with the county, establish a joint park board. But then I just kept thinking that could take years. I'd like to see it eventually, but we don't have years to wait for things like a new baseball facility. And what we're facing is what Keegan said is, this is 30. Those baseball diamonds were in bad shape when you and I played there. We're facing a reality in Tipton of things are really starting to fall apart because things have kind of just been pushed and pushed and pushed for decades. And now it's like, oh, we've got a public safety building that probably is a great D or F. We got park facilities that our park superintendent's done a great job of finding ways to get them through. The pool's in good shape, but only through some grant and some other work prior under Mayor Havens. And we're just really like, what do we do now? And it's going to be a hard reality at budget time of, I've thought about it. What do we do with some of these things we can't afford, like a cemetery? We're really starting to be like, maybe we can't afford a cemetery. These are hard realities that small towns are facing because we're not growing that fast, if at all. And when you think about how we allocate the dollars we have, Parks and Rec is really important to me. And I just hope that we find a way. We have a couple county government officials here. I would hope we can find a way to partner to get this done. A lot of things in Tipton history, we find ways to just fight and nothing gets done. And in this case, it'd be to the detriment of the children and future children that want to use these facilities. So it's really, I think step one is someone has to lead this project, and I mean lead it. And it's council. We could provide fiscal support, but the council can't lead it. We don't have authority. The second thing is we need a temporary solution that is meshed with the future solution. I don't see why it have to be 5 to 7 years to have a multi-use sports complex. If we all agree and can stop arguing about where or when and just say here, and we have the funds and we can find the funds, then Holiday Park or Championship Park in Kokomo was built in a year and a half. There's just no way. And as long as we say, all right, the temporary facility will be on the same spot. So when we spend sponsorship and donations, they can see what their money will eventually go to. It's a win-win, but I just hope we can find a way. There's 2 prime spots. I don't really care where they go, to be frank, or whatever, but that's why we're in this boat we're in, and why it took me a while to come back to an actual taxing park board.
Yeah, the only piece of it that I realized from that piece is the ability to apply for, matching grants. And we're talking $500 or $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million of matched grant money. It's obviously, it's not nickels and pennies there.
No.
So before we get away, what's next steps? Let's don't leave the table tonight until we figure out what's next.
I mean, I've been actively working on this project. It occupies more time because of the necessity to get baseball fields back in Tipton. So we're working on for the 2025 budget in conversation with Reed Financial Group on how do we create the space within the budget or other fiscal tools to afford that. So we're
So do we have a yay or a nay from the county, whether they're willing to help in any way, shape, or form?
every conversation I've had suggests that there is support at the county level. We've not gotten to a point of asking for any dollar amounts, but there does seem to be support with those that I've spoken to. So we're continuing to work on the fiscal side to identify what the project budget looks like. The project budget will dictate what the project looks like.
Okay, I guess I'll come back to the county piece then. Who goes to the county? Who from the county can give the okay on funding?
Well, it depends on the county council could allocate funds, but the commissioners also have their CIP.
Right.
And honestly, the optimal outcome has to include the county. A suboptimal outcome will be the city trying to build its own city parks.
Amen.
Now, again, I'm for if the county, I get it, the county may take some time to do a joint park board, countywide park board, and maybe 10 years, I don't know. Put that aside. I would hope that this is something we can, again, find a way to get done together. The reality is the county has some of the funds the city needs to make this the most optimal project. That's just it. That's the hard reality.
My question is, where and when? So, we had facilities. Were they perfect? No, far from it. Were they playable?
Sure.
And where they were?
Absolutely.
Absolutely 100%. No question.
Now there's
Our
nothing.
board had zero involvement, zero consultation of what's going on, and I'm still just absolutely dumbfounded how anybody can tear down a facility and not have any means of paying for it. And this is what we're left with.
Agreed.
With indecision, no direction. We've got a pipe dream of a unified facility, which isn't going to be playable in 26. I would feel pretty confident of that. We've got the tangible, design, all the work already done, going to this county or anybody and what they plan, and asking for commitments to help on, and to apply for grants and get our board involved in things, to help work on those with here is the plan and here is the timeline. But it's going to be a real struggle until, we have something tangible that, this unified facility. Sure, sounds great. Everybody supports it, but, if the baseball field's going to cost $1.7 million for 3 fields with no lights, we think a unified facility is not going to cost under $10 million. I doubt it.
It'll be expensive. The reality is your
If we
first
can't raise
question.
1.7 to put up baseball fields, I'm not sure how we're going to raise that kind of fund stuff.
The reality is your first question is the hardest one. Where?
That's what I want.
If it's going to be where it was before, you may get people say, well, I don't want to, that's too small. You're never going to be able to have tournaments. And I know we had to reconfigure so we could actually have Cal Ripken. And I don't know that much about baseball, but, or do you put it at the fairgrounds or do you put it at the school? That will be the most contentious part of all this. Once you decide where, the funding is also important, but the fact that you have a little more time, because once you say here, then we can start building some temporary facilities and donors understand this is where the future multi-use is going to be. But for now, we have to create temporary fields that are good enough and solid enough for kids to play on, period. Then it's a little more like, okay, we have time, we have breathing room because now we have a place to play. But right now, if I'm thinking like you, where am I going to play and when? You have nothing. We have nothing to tell you right now. So I'm hoping that as a city and county and school, if applicable, we can decide at least where very soon. Or we're going to be having the same discussion in the summer of 25.
So who
Who
has
leads,
that ball?
who leads that charge?
Yeah, so my, involvement was that, Dee Mary came out, said that, when we first took over, you're pausing, hitting the brakes on the baseball project to kind of regroup and form that committee and you were running point on that project
Correct.
until we kind of hit the stall that I'm learning more about every day or every conversation since then.
Correct.
But again, is that your responsibility? Does that fall somewhere else? No.
Correct, because of the financial piece of all of this is all intertangled. So yes, in fact, had a conversation just this morning regarding this project. So there are activities and strategies in play that we're still trying to scope. And I would say the existing, if the previous plan, the city would have to make some concessions, of course, in our 2025 budget, but we can build on site at the 3 acres. We deemed that 3 fields was sufficient for our future needs. So yeah, my expectation at this very moment is I'm continuing with the project and going to continue to have those conversations to find strategies to lead to success.
Well, at least I got one answer there that nothing's happening for 2025. So that's confirmed. Timeline's passed. We're done there.
Because to get out to
Right.
to RFP to BOT, it's just the length of time. You have to have the public hearings. All of it would stretch. We probably wouldn't have a confirmed vendor bid until the fall.
So what happened to the July 17th date that when the city was, or council was reviewing the RFP and,
I don't have the order of events that have occurred, but the meeting at the county RDC happened somewhere in the middle of that. So we were supposed to have a BOT resolution that would have been presented to the city council at that time would then become available for people to bid on. And so the delay of that was me trying to triage. And I do apologize. I think as I've heard the terminology I shared in that email does sound a little more, maybe a stronger indictment on the council than I intended it to be. Not that they didn't support a baseball project, but it felt like there was interest in pursuing a multi-facility, which caused that delay. So, and in conversation, helping to triage with it, the construction vendor that we were in discussion with, having a discussion with them to understand what timeline we had before we had to make a decision. That's what I learned back in that July date that you referenced, that we'd missed that window. So at that time, so we've already bought another year because we can't get a facility back in Tipton in 2025. Is might as well try to use this strategically to build a facility that we would be proud of. So I agree there's been a delay in my responses, but not because of lack of effort, intention, or focus on the project, but trying to understand what our next steps are so that when we did have that next meeting, I can actually offer you some solutions and strategies moving forward.
okay, I appreciate that information and just ask that we don't do this again. This is what we're going to have fields playable in 24. We're going to have fields playable in 25. Now we're talking 26 with a lot of work to do, obviously. So that's going on 3 years of it. And having that answer confidently, at least gives our board some direction to continue to try to secure Atlanta. Also, you mentioned that you had been in some talks there. And
Correct.
when we met with council members down there, they were talking about wanting to sell the facility.
Correct.
Which I don't know if that's even a possibility but they want to do a contract at this point for next season because they're hoping to sell that facility and their thought was to possibly sell it to the city of Tipton. So I don't know if that's entertainable. It doesn't seem like it would be, but again, I want to try to get a contract in place with Atlanta so that our board can confidently say, hey, we were playing baseball in Atlanta and we can give them that information, but we can't put that out there until we get something under contract. So I don't want to continue to delay this. But at least we can confidently say that it will not be in Tipton. We're still working on Atlanta, but not sure what conversations you've had with the Atlanta council members, but just ask that we try to expedite it. Give them an answer, yes or no, one way or another, so that our board can try to enter into a lease, and we can talk about some of the other issues we talked about mowing and some different things that were definitely a challenge for our board this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
I have to, I guess I'm old and I just don't understand. I still not sure that we've come away with what the next step is. I mean, I appreciate the fact that the mayor is going to continue to talk and discuss but I mean, does somebody need to go to the next commissioners meeting and the next county council meeting and ask for help from somebody to at least figure out what the next steps may or may not be?
It has to be where. The question still is going to come back to where.
Okay, so, and you get together and you find out where, but I mean, until we do, I mean, we got to have.
I think we're gonna get an explanation up here in a minute.
What?
Nancy.
Again, I don't have a preference. I really don't, other than that this is a partnership with the county and if applicable the school. That's all I care about. And I'm racking my brain around if we finally just settle on a site. If that's the site of the future multiplex, how we couldn't find a way before summer of 25 to get, we played on some pretty measly facilities to get them graded, to get some stuff down, some chain link fence. I'm sure we can find a way to get that done, knowing that that's the site of the future. But it's going to come back to where.
Well, okay, I'm not trying to be difficult here. So who do you get to the table to figure out where?
My understanding is an initial meeting has happened between Keegan, the school, and county officials. I don't know if the where was discussed or decided, but again, it's going to be the where. You can't do all this is for nothing until we decide where.
I think I'm going to have to ask for a little confidence here that I've had 8 months trying to problem solve this issue and just commit that I am committed to getting baseball solved. So I understand next steps, the conversations, again, the fiscal nature of this, the legal nature of this is all intertwined. So I'm going to ask for the council's confidence as we move forward to scoping this project. Roberta?
Okay, Roberta Heinzman, 904 Mill Street. Thank you for coming. I have no idea who's on the board. I would know if I walked up to your face. I wish you would come to more meetings. I wish you would come every month. I think that would be helpful right there, so you can get an update of nothing or something every single month. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm sorry, that's me. I think the idea with meeting with the county, the mayor, who else did you mention?
The school.
The school. I think that's great, but I think you need different guns to come in. You need someone from the park board that is interested in being a part of what they should have been a part of all along, baseball fields. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. If you do, tell me right now. We started those trails, I don't even going to bore you to death. We started this trail project in 21. You're talking about 19. We stepped over every line, pulled up every piece of paper that needed to be done, gave everybody all the information about how this is going to go, found an architect on our own, but the city was notified. And I don't know how your board works, but I would like you to work like that he does. And I think if you work in conjunction with the city and the county and going to those meetings, I think you'll get much more. I'm not a baseball person. I don't even watch baseball on TV. I watched the Little League playoff. I would tell you that last weekend. But I, for one, don't want to see playing in Atlanta. And you might have to do that. I think kids from Tipton need to play in Tipton. I mean, that's it. There's no other choice. You mentioned something about grants, and that's what we have done. I don't know if you have a grant writer, or if you've even done grants for anything, bigger grants, but it's a little late in the year here, but they should be sending out all those grants for the first of the year, and I really, really want you guys to hop on those like tomorrow. I mean, they're a godsend. We're just kicking stupid money down the street to some other community. It's just crazy. Thank you for coming in. I have a question about the Golf Advisory Committee. What were the issues that were talked about? You said other issues. Other issues.
The one I'm familiar with is personnel
There was-
specific, so we won't
We
disclose
won't
that.
discuss
But
those.
Okay, personnel stuff. Okay,
Correct.
That's fine. That's fine. And then can I ask the lot behind the water company where the
Church
old
was,
church was pulled down? Is there anything going in there for the city?
there's no active plan.
No active plan?
The acquisition was strategic in nature, assuming at some point the water plant will need to expand so that they had that space to do so in the future.
So that paved lot can be used for public parking in the interim? Yes, no?
I think the answer would be technically yes.
Okay.
We're gonna put windmills there.
What part of
We're
it?
gonna put windmills there.
I'm sorry.
Windmills.
Windmills.
I'm just trying to add some brevity.
I can't hear well on my right.
Solar panels would be the other.
The solar, yeah.
Okay, the safety building,
Mhm.
I would like more information on that next month. As much information as possible. I think that's a big determinant in our city right there.
Sure.
We're lucky that we have the policemen and firemen we have right now. That building is a D or an F. You know, so I'd really, really like to see that. I think that is all of my questions tonight. Okay, all right.
I'd like to ask one question, Mr. Campbell, if you got 1 minute. Last meeting I went to at your baseball meeting last time, you guys mentioned you didn't know if you could get Atlanta, if it was even possible this year. You didn't know if you was gonna have to have all away games or if you was even gonna be able to play at home. Have you heard anything else about that and what you guys are looking at so far? Because that's been on my mind ever
Yeah,
since.
we went out, we met with council member we worked through the contract with, last year's to hang over some, there was a number of updates, improvements that we had to do to the facility in return for using it. So one of their kind of through a bunch list of things to touch up a couple things, some caulking, some painting. It was positive feedback and, sounded promising. But again, it was discussed they were wanting to sell that facility, or it was rumored that they were wanting to sell that facility. And then after talking with them, again, it was only 2 of the council members, so it wasn't their whole council or board or whatever. But that they were trying to connect with the mayor about that endeavor is why. There's one reason why they wouldn't give us that contract, or want to move forward with that. We talked about parking being a real problem down there, obviously. Our board's discussed some ideas to kind of mitigate that, but again, until tonight, it was the first confident, no, we're not playing in Tipton in 25. So having that answer, we'll continue that pursuit, but
And when
again, try not to delay that so we get an answer. And last year they rented it to us, listed it to us for free, with just a list of improvements. And I mean, it needed some work, but we had a great group of volunteers and
kudos to those people.
yeah, ton of time and effort put in by a ton of people, and very playable. Again, until we get that on paper, and a contract. I'm still a little concerned because without that, yeah, I mean, our local sluggers and our peewee, while their games are home, it's all in-house league, playing away is not an option.
Ryan, I know parking is a big issue down there. Do you know who owns that triangle that they roped off?
No.
Have you heard any more from the farmer about maybe building a park in that field?
I have not spoken with them directly, but there was talk that, that may be an option, or maybe a lease or something that we can work out. But yeah, I've not had any conversations with them directly.
Well, I was kind of the same question with the triangle that was roped off. For not
Love's Park there.
Well, even for a fee for the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
There's people like that in the world, but hey.
Yeah. But sound like they're promising to that 5 acres to the north there
Would be
well, except for when it rains. But maybe if we get some seed planted on it, turns into like have a grass parking lot.
Yeah.
A lot of rain, we're not playing anyway. But as a worked up field, it will be a little challenging there.
And I apologize, I remember you saying your next meeting, it's in September what?
September 11th.
11th?
I believe.
Because I'd like to come again to keep kind of updated on it again and see where you guys are at.
September 11th at 6:30 at the Foundation Building.
I learned a lot myself at the last meeting, so that's why I
Appreciate your attendance.
like to come again to that.
Thanks again, Ryan.
I'm Elsa Smith with Farm Bureau Incorporated. Yesterday at the park, we had our annual meeting at the
Pavilion.
Yeah. And the fire department came for the kids to look over their engines, and we had face painting by the FFA kids, and probably close to 75 people attended there at the pavilion. And at the time that we decided to do it there, we had no idea that they had no restroom facilities. I guess if we had known that ahead of time, we probably would have thought a little differently.
We actually discovered a water leak on Sunday morning. We actually discovered that water leak on Sunday morning.
Yes.
So it's actually not a planned outage, but
Are the restrooms open then usually, or?
oh yeah.
Yes. I think she had the plumbers out today to look at it, but that was an unforeseen.
Yeah, well, there was a porta potty down by the maintenance building, I think it's maintenance building.
Yep.
Some people used that for, but they weren't very happy in that, so. And I don't know, will the park board bill for the use of the tables or whatever?
The reservations usually travel through the mayor's office, actually. So we can have that conversation because of the situations. Like I said, we weren't expecting the bathrooms to be out of service, but they did have plumbers out today. But yeah, we would welcome that conversation.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, Kelly Paul was the person who rented the tables and stuff at the pavilion.
Yep.
And she hadn't heard from anybody, and there was no contract or anything, so she was kind of wondering about how you pay or what happens, so. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Raver.
Waiting line, I see. Good evening. I'm Steve Raver, live here in the big city of Tipton. As the mayor indicated, finally, phase 2 of the trail is underway. So any of those that had wagers out, because I heard people were betting that it never happened, now would be the time you can go collect your money. I basically here this evening to say thank you to the council for the support that you have given for this project. It's taken longer than we wanted, but it is happening. So thank you for your support. We also had good support from the utilities. They're not here, but if you pass that along to them, we appreciate what they did. And Mayor Dozel originally started the basic fund that we needed, the matching funds for the grant that we got from DNR. And we had good support from several community organizations and businesses and individuals that helped with the funding of this. And also, I really would need to thank the mayor because he found some additional money that it turned out that we needed towards the end to make this a reality. And also for the funding that you came up with to do the connection from the main entrance up to the pool, because there was no good path to get from the park to the pool without that connection. Also, it resolved an ADA compliance issue that we had there. And I gotta thank Tammy too, because I know she's had extra paperwork to do and funding issues to deal with as a result of this project. So there was a lot of people and a lot of organizations in the community that came together to make this happen for the city. And I'm sure that residents of the city and the county will enjoy using that when it gets installed. I have one other thing I want to cover. It was mentioned earlier, and that is a statutory park board. As we keep adding features here, the need for a statutory park board becomes much, much greater. You know, when I was on the park board in the past, it was the park, the pool, the golf course. That was it. You know, since then, we have added the splash pad, which is again part of the pool, but kind of a separate issue. We've added the disc golf. We've added the little park up here that's downtown. Now we're basically doubling the amount of trail that we have. And I'm hearing from more and more people a desire for more trail. So it comes to the place where you actually need a board to manage, maintain, and grow these facilities. The other big factor that was mentioned this evening was funding. If we have a statutory park board, there are grants that only a statutory park board can get. One of them is a DNR grant, for example, that is up to $1 million. It's 50-50 grant, but the top limit on is mil. In talking to DNR, one of the things that they specifically stated is that it can be used for recreational facilities. In other words, ballpark. That's a big chunk of money. And in talking to DNR, it appears that they have a great deal of money in that fund at the present time. Because my DNR contact tells me, get your park board set, apply for the grant, and you're good to go. There is, of course, a time frame. There are requirements that we have to do, but that helps towards however you decide to go. You know, it would have to be part of the park system if you're going to build it other than at the park, but that could be done. So I guess I'm just saying, you know, it's just time, as Ned said, that we do need a statutory park board. We do. Just for the dollars and for better management of the whole system.
I'd like to state that I am 100% for the park board. I'd love to see that happen. So I'm definitely 100%. I do have a question because we've been talking about working with the school on the ball diamonds and stuff like that. If we do go to the school, can we still get grants, being that we don't own that land? Can we still get grants and help these guys get that built? Or does that take the grant money away because it's owned by the school?
The grant that I'm talking about does relate directly to park boards. So it is for land acquisition or land development.
So we could buy land and build a sports complex.
Right. Or you can put fields, if you're
Or
looking for
development.
interim fields. If you decide to put the fields back where they are, that money could be utilized towards that. It's called land and water conservation.
Right.
But they allow it to be used for a broad variety of things. But it has to be, you have to have a statutory park board that applies for that grant. Because as an advisory board, we can't apply. In fact, a park advisory board is really not a legal entity in any way. So we really ourselves can apply for no grants.
You'd have to apply through the city, basically.
And that's how we've done it before. The Tipton Trails group were the ones that actually worked and got this last grant through the city. The bike and pedestrian plan was done, again, by the Trails group, but it was through the city. We did all the work. The mayor had to sign his name on the grant application.
If we want to set up a park board,
Takes a
to
simple
be able to
resolution.
get grants, when do we need to have that done to be able to call for next year's grants? Because I know there's timelines.
There it is. In addition to creating the statutory park board, it has to be created based on Indiana Code IC 36-10-3. In addition to that, we need to go ahead and update our 5-year plan. The current 5-year plan was not accepted by the DNR. So we currently don't have one. There ought to be a plan for the park anyway. Whether you do it through the DNR or whether you just have a park plan, and then currently there is none. So anyway, we'd have to finish up a new 5-year plan. Submit it to DNR. That has to be in by November.
By November.
A lot of the work has already been done, but I will tell you that some time ago, the park board actually stopped working on it because we saw there was no need to submit a 5-year plan to the DNR if you're not going to be a statutory park.
Now, is there any other kind of things like where the park, some things I know is not ADA compliant and stuff like that? Is there stuff, we just need a plan in place for that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah.
To be able to get grants?
There are a multitude of grants that are available out there, that's for sure. And I think we're making a terrible mistake to take advantage of some of those.
Right.
You know, if someone's willing to help us and supply 50 to 80% of the cost of something.
Right.
You know, we're helping the taxpayer out if we go for the grants.
So it
Thanks
goes
for your
back-
time. Again,
Thanks, Steve.
thanks for all of you for your support of the trail project.
Hi, Nancy Klein, 11831 West Riding South, Indiana, Tipton County Commissioner. I'm here to support Ryan and the baseball board. We're talking about our kids here. And it's, Mr. Amon, I appreciate you because it's like, what do we do now to solve the problem? I think most everybody in this community is angry that those fields were torn up without none of us knew about it. None of us knew it was going to happen. But now we have it. So now what do we do? And I have grandchildren that play here. I don't want his children and my grandchildren to be graduating high school by the time we get something in place to play baseball here. It's a time thing here. Now, one question I have, if we don't reconstruct the baseball field, and it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal, people, you know, let's just get something like we had. Maybe we should have just improved the concession stands, improved the bathrooms, and lived with it. That was wasteful taxpayer money. Anyway, so what was my thought? Remind me where I was going. That I kind of got off the track.
Not building Taj Mahal.
Next steps. Oh, what was I talking about, Jim? You remember?
Not building the Taj Mahal.
We don't want the Taj Mahal. So what are we gonna do now? I have grandchildren that play at New Pal as well. And they do have an agreement with the school, okay? The school owns the land. The baseball league rents for $1 a year. They take care of the repairs on the fields. The school pays the utilities. And then for the fields that like the girls' high school softball and that, then they have an agreement which they share those expenses, okay? So it can be worked out, but we are in the here and now. And, oh, I know what I was gonna ask. What if we don't reconstruct those baseball fields out there? What is it gonna be used for?
There are no active ideas for
Okay.
that space.
There
Okay,
hasn't been any discussion because we haven't definitely decided not to put the baseball fields back.
okay.
I'll tell you my personal opinion. I would love to see the baseball diamonds go somewhere else and be able to expand the park.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, we need baseball fields. I don't care where we put them at this point. We
Absolutely.
should have,
Well, and Andrea did Andrea have to leave?
Yeah, should step up.
Okay. Andrea's on the school board, and I know there was a discussion, and I wasn't able to attend, but Keegan did catch me up on that discussion that was had there, and Andrea was there as well, I believe. But when you're talking about that, you need a master plan. You can't just stick a baseball field here and a baseball field there. You've got to create a whole master plan that will last you forever and ever. So what do we do in the here and now? And I'm willing to, as a county official, I am willing to have some conversations. How can we work together to get this accomplished?
Thank you.
And so I will pass that on to my coworkers.
Yep.
And then maybe some of you can have some discussions with us, bring in the baseball board, but let's get this stuff done. Our kids need a place to play, people. Get it done. They're our kids. We're for the kids. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one
Let's
thing
get
to
them
say.
in.
I'm gonna thank you for standing up for the baseball people, because I'm not a baseball person, you already know that.
They got it.
I think the problem has been guidance in the past. Everybody's doing their own thing. Each board is doing their own thing, and there's not a lot of conversation with the park board, the baseball people, the tree people, and the park board, all over. I think instead of asking, what do we do next, what do we do, someone needs to stand up and say, let's make an appointment to meet with county officials on this day. You, anybody from your board. Steve has taught me so much about how things can really function if you do it step by step by step by step. And I think that's where we're lacking right there. We're gonna start there, get all those people together in one room. And I think, my last word, I don't think we need 2 baseball fields. We need a community baseball field, whether it's in the county or closer to the city, whatever. We don't need 2 baseball fields. We need a community spot to play baseball. We don't need Grant Park.
Great. Thank you.
I think an initial meeting did happen, as Nancy alluded to, and I said earlier, between the mayor, which was the city's representative, the school, county council, and county commissioner. I don't know, I can't remember. It's not because it didn't happen. I'm sure Keegan told me. But I can't remember quite the outcome of that. But I know Tipton well enough to know if we start putting too many people on the core committee, so you should meet as a big group. But if you try to navigate Titanic with that big of a group, you're going to get nowhere. And so what you really need is a core steering committee. And it probably should be the mayor, county commissioner, county council, school board member. And if you want to put a park board member on that, that's fine. But if you put them at the school board, the park board will probably not have a huge say or control or running the facility. But at the end of the day, you're right, someone has to lead this project. I'm telling you, it's going to come back to where. We will fight more about where, and we'll come up with excuses of why we can't there and why I want it here or I want it there, because I've seen it too many times. So really, we need a steering committee, and the council can support all we can through fiscally. But this board is not designed to lead projects. That's his job. And I do have faith that we can get somewhere with Keegan, but he needs to be our representation. You don't need all 5 of us giving our opinion on this thing. I support where he wants to put it. You don't need my opinion on brick dust. I'm sure we'll fight about that too. But it has to be it's going to come down to where. There are 2 great options, the school out by the fairgrounds That's been talked about for 20 years here.
Yep.
You could put it back where it is, but I think you have to decide where, because once you do, we can get some temporary facilities up running ASAP. And I like the idea of the school too. I like the idea of the fairgrounds. But we have to decide where, and then someone has to lead this thing.
I do too, Nathan. But I'm saying it's a grandiose project, it's grandiose money.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're gonna get down to the money. And your budget is tight, county council is struggling getting 2025 budget to work.
But so it's not true that there's almost $7 million that you guys could allocate some to a
I'm not
baseball
saying,
project?
I can't speak for
The
the
council.
county commissioners tonight. I will
I'm talking about
take
the
back
council.
what I learned tonight because I'm one of three.
Right.
And where I do have the mayor, I'm one of three. So I can take information back and try to see what we want to do. And I will, I promise you, I promise you guys I will. But, you know, you're talking, Ryan's right, you're talking way down the road. By the time you get buy-in on that.
I'm talking, the where has to be decided. I'm not saying where
I
the
know
Taj Mahal is
where,
gonna
but
be.
as I
Where are you
said-
gonna build any facilities?
Well, I
Period.
think we need to use what was torn up for right now.
There is concern there, though. If you go out there right now and stick your hand in the ground like this, you're gonna find some things you don't want your kids around.
You don't have to. I went out there.
Is that true?
There's big bottles.
I
broken
did.
out
I
there.
had some skepticism. Phil Keegan told me that, and I went out there and I was
I did
like,
too.
oh my goodness.
Okay,
I
so
did
you're
too.
not interested in that at all.
Not saying I'm not interested. Again, where I want to put it, I don't care.
The contractor we met with, it's not ideal, but it can be mitigated. It can be
It
laid
can be
down
fixed
and
up?
covered. Yeah.
You're saying with fill dirt or whatever, or,
Fabric, underlaying fabric, then putting a new topsoil.
okay, so
It's close to
it's
grade.
not out of the question to mitigate those issues, right? So
True, that's
let's not eliminate that possibility.
I would just offer that wasn't part of the $1.5 million project budget to bring in and mitigate.
So anyway, we just need to have some more conversations and, you know, to your point, let's get something for the kids.
Thank you.
I do still worry about softball and soccer. I mean, as a dad of daughters, I know, but where I see our kids play soccer and softball is a problem. Now, I know we're trying to address baseball tonight, and I think it's okay to dream big. I think we've lacked that in this community for a while.
Isn't the soccer fields on county property that they may be?
I don't know if it's county property, but they're out in the middle of nowhere.
I heard they thought about selling that land. That's why I was asking that.
It's for sale.
It's
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Nathan, in all reality, which is more attainable, the school or the fairground property?
No idea. I would hope that neither cost money, like to buy.
Right.
That's a great selling point.
Mhm.
I look in my backyard. My backyard is 48 acres of level, easily addable sports facility. Because the girls soccer field's based in my backyard. Then you have all that acreage. Plus the school owns 140 acres behind the nature center. But again, whatever's best for the community. I'm not going to tell you, it has to be the school or I'm out.
I didn't know if either one was like really attainable at this point.
Probably both are feasible. It's just where do we want to put it, you know?
Right.
And I'm all for anything that helps the youth, always have been. My problem with putting it at school, Tipton's gonna see growth someday.
Yes.
I pray to God we're gonna see growth. And school buys that property for expansion. So let's say you put $3 million in a sports complex, 10 million, who knows? And 5 years down the road, the school goes, that's gotta go.
Well,
The
then
chances of that
then that's all
happening are
gone.
about this.
my
Yeah.
opinion is there's plenty of room there for growth
Yeah.
and ball diamonds.
But then the fairgrounds, I've been told that the county kind of told the fair board, you can have the money to run, am I right, Nancy? To run the,
The only funds the fair board has are those funds that
On those
crops
crops.
are doing.
that's what I thought.
Because the county council gives them no funds for that. that whole facility depends on that,
Right.
those.
So 4-H depends on,
Well, not just 4-H, the whole.
well, the whole fairground, right.
And we're gonna be able to see growth in that area too because of all the events that are happening out there.
The sale of the crops is what goes to the fair board.
Yes.
Exactly.
What's the rough estimate a year?
Oh,
I've heard
don't ask me
30.
that.
I've heard 30. Someone said 30 grand. I said, that seems a little
I
low,
would
but
have to
maybe.
get back to you. I'm not gonna tell you that without knowing for sure.
To me, that's
Yeah.
is
But
a
it's
non-starter because
expensive,
there's
yeah.
solutions. We can find other ground and do a 1031 exchange. We could say, hey, if we have a sports facility here someday, think of the revenue you're going to get off of RV rental, and that's going to surpass any amount you're going to get off cash crop.
And I still say, let's find a solution now.
Yeah.
Anything further on,
I still think it's a good idea for you and you to go as ears, if not anything else, to this commissioner, county council meeting with nothing else but ears. I mean, this man has, God knows how much experience doing stuff. And has been trucking along for years. You're brand new at this, running something. You both could benefit.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for your participation and attendance this evening. Bob, you want to finish us out? Assuming there is no other.
Bob Edinger took just some comments and observations I made. I think it's been covered that baseball seems important. Yeah. I think it's also been covered that the current administration didn't cause this problem. I think it's clear that they'll be expensive, whatever we do. But some comments that have came to me, are wondering, is the mayor even doing anything on this? I think you made it clear that you probably spent a lot of time on it. Now, one observation on my own is, I'm assuming as mayor, you probably have a lot of things to work on.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nate. Thanks, everybody.
You got to sign stuff. Trying to get out of here. Thank you.